Mr. Chairman, for inviting me here to give my personal testimony on human rights situation in Egypt. Please allow me to consider this hearing as a form of dialogue over human rights with the Egyptian government also. Unfortunately, the only channels of dialogue President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi allows with human rights defenders is kidnapping their sons or daughters, such as the case with Aida Saif al-Dawla, or through arresting their spouses, as was the case with Muhammad Lutfi, or through physical assault in public, as was the case with Gamal Eid, or forcibly disappearing and torturing them, as was the case with Ibrahim Azzeddin. In other cases, human rights defenders were kidnapped from the airport while traveling to meet with United Nations experts in Geneva, as was the case with Ibrahim Metwalli. Muhammad al-Baqir, a human rights lawyer, was arrested while attending the interrogation with his client, Ala Abdel Fattah. Another case is Mahinur al-Masri, who was kidnapped in broad daylight and right in front of the prosecutor office. Perhaps those examples explain why the Egyptian parliament selected former police officer accused of torture as the head of its human rights committee, where his time is spent at accusing human rights defenders of being foreign agents. What happened to me was just another form of President Sisi government dialogue with human rights defenders. I was forced to leave Egypt after receiving this threat. I don't know if I will ever be able to go back home. But still, I consider myself lucky compared to tens of thousands of Egyptians who peacefully expressed their opinions and were killed, jailed, or forcibly disappeared in return. Many died in jail under torture or due to intentional medical negligence, as was the case with former President Mohamed Morsi, the first elected president since the military coup of 1952. Many of those in jail are there after being sentenced in politicized shame trials. Others are spending years and months under fabricated charges without trial. Tens of millions continue to live in the Republic of Fear. When I first received the death threat, 3 weeks after President Sisi formally assumed power in June 2014, I was calm. What was surprising was the degree of confidence reflected by those who I consulted that the threat to my life is real and timely. Some of those I consulted were Egypt-based diplomats and the senior United Nations officials in New York and Geneva. After I left Egypt, public figures affiliated with the government incited to kill me on live Egyptian television. One of them, member of the parliament, and is closely affiliated with President Sisi. Another called for attacking me with the same nerve agent used against a Russian citizen in the United Kingdom. He accused me of espionage, because I speak out on human rights violations with officials from United Nations and its member states. When I filed a complaint with the Egyptian public prosecutor concerning the televised threat to kill me, it was shelved, and the person who made the threat was later appointed or rewarded, in fact, by President Sisi at a government post tasked with monitoring the professionalism of international media in Egypt. In the years after my death threat, an Egyptian court ordered the freezing of my assets and those of the Cairo Institute for Human Rights Studies, along with other human rights organizations and defenders. The same public prosecutor who shelved my complaint against incitement to murder opened two parallel investigation into my public statement on the human rights situation. Within the past 11 months, I have been sentenced to 18 years in prison for insulting the judiciary and spreading fake news. The moment I found out about my sentence, I remembered Dr. Mustafa Nagar. Nagar was one of the icons of the liberal youth movement of the January 2011 revolution. He won his parliamentary seat in 2011 through a landslide victory against his Muslim Brotherhood backed opponent. Despite that he legally enjoyed immunity for his statements as a parliamentarian, but in 2017 he was sentenced to 3 years in jail for the same reason I was. Batal Nagar, like thousands of Egyptians over the past few years, was disappeared. Till today, his fate remains unknown. Throughout the past 7 years, many pro-democracy activists were prosecuted and or sentenced in sham trials for allegedly joining an armed terrorist organization. Despite the numerous attempts of those accused to know which terrorist organizations they are accused of joining, the prosecution refuses to inform them and renew their detention anyway. Those accused include renowned Christians and the secular figures, human rights defenders, journalists, lawyers, and even medical staff that criticized the handling of the COVID 19 crisis. In fact, the collapse of judicial norms does not only reflect in political cases, but also on the blatant discrimination against women in social cases. Recently, highly publicized cases of rape saw the imprisonment of the victims and witnesses. It is my criticism of this pattern of fabrication of charges and the politicized trials that earned me the charge of insulting the judiciary. As a matter of fact, for many years, independent human rights defenders, including myself, struggled along with judges for the independence of the judiciary. I never meant to insult the judiciary, but I criticized those who transformed the oldest modern judiciary in the Arab world into a weapon against peaceful dissidents.
Mr. Hassan,
Coincidentally,
Mr. Hassan, if I could,
yes,
if I could ask you to wrap up, please. We're grateful for your testimony. Members, I know, have lots of questions.
okay, I will conclude. I just Mr. Chairman, given this context, I think it is time for serious and transparent talk between the American and the Egyptian governments under the oversight of the Egyptian people and the American taxpayers to partnership between the US and Egypt and the massive gap between its declared goals and
Oh, Mr. Hassan, thank you very much.
myself, for myself, I always saw human rights according to the job. Not at all. Thank you.